I'm Deontay Jenkins, and here's what's on my mind. One battle after another. Coming up on this episode, it feels much faster than it actually is. It's not really a 2 hour and 49-minute movie. It is a 30-minute movie followed by a 2 hour movie.
You know what freedom is? No fear. Just like Tom Cruise.
By the way, this is going to be a spoiler-filled breakdown, so if you haven't seen the movie, definitely click off and go watch it and then come back. I'm not a film critic. I'm a filmmaker, and that's how I'm going to approach things moving forward as I talk about different movies and things from the past, things from the present, things I like. I'm not criticizing. I'm literally probably just going to be breaking down the form and the way these things work and why these things work. Getting into the film, my relationship with Paul Thomas Anderson started around 2007, around when There Will Be Blood came out. That was my first time watching the Academy Awards. I'm not sure if that was a 2007 or 2008 Academy Awards, but whatever year that There Will Be Blood and No Country for Old Men was nominated for Best Picture. That year, the only film I had seen was Juno, and my maturation as a filmmaker and as a film lover can be marked by these transformative periods in my life, and one of them being that Academy Awards, because that was the first time that I had been exposed to any other type of film. I've wanted to be a filmmaker since I was a kid, and my interest in film and filmmaking matured along with my age. And I love Juno. I still love Juno, and I was kind of shocked that everybody was talking about No Country for Old Men and There Will Be Blood and not Juno. So I was confused. I was like, what are these movies and why are they so good? Why are people talking about them? And I saw them both and I loved them both. And There Will Be Blood left a lasting impression to where now it's one of my favorite films of all time, if not my favorite film of all time. And that was the beginning of my love affair with Paul Thomas Anderson's work. Since then, I've gone back and I've now seen all 10 of his films. And I think One Battle After Another is the culmination. Culmination, it's the, what is it? What's the word? The I can't even think of the word, but it is everything that he's done in all of his films have kind of come to this point. I'm just literally describing the word that I cannot pronounce right now. Um, and I think he's used all of his skills to get this done. I've seen this movie 3 times already. This is the opening weekend of the film. This is Friday. I've seen it on 70 millimeter. I've seen it on IMAX 70 millimeter, and I've seen it on VistaVision. And all three were amazing and completely different experiences. I would say VistaVision is the best. I mean, that's the intended format for it to be seen on, and that's what it was shot on. And it really elevates the film beyond just a normal film and makes it an experience. And that, I think, is what most of us are craving when we go to the movies. So let's talk about that real quick. Let's talk about the formats of this film. This film has been released in regular digital, IMAX 70, regular 70, and VistaVision. I've seen it in IMAX 70, VistaVision, and regular 70 millimeter. And I can tell you the difference in all of those film prints is pretty vast. Let's start with 70 millimeter because that was the first one that I saw it in. I saw it in an advanced screening at the AFI in Silver Spring, Maryland. That print was gorgeous. That was probably the best print that I saw because it was one. So they announced before we watched the film that it was the first print made. It was labeled as print number one, likely 70 millimeter print number one. So it was the first print made, and it was the first screening of that print. So it was very clean, not a lot, not any scratches that I can remember, not a lot of dust or anything on it, and it was gorgeous. It's that rich, detailed 70 millimeter look that you know. Then I saw it on IMAX 70, and IMAX 70 has a lot more fidelity than regular 70 millimeter, and obviously the aspect ratio changes. So the 70 millimeter is 185, which is pretty normal aspect ratio, and the IMAX 70 is 143, which is pretty normal for IMAX 70. So you get more at the top and at the bottom than you do on the regular 70 millimeter, which especially in those car chase scenes and the scenes in the desert with the landscapes and everything, it just looks amazing. It looks phenomenal. I think. I also saw the film on IMAX Digital. I forgot about that. So I've seen the film 4 times actually. But yeah, and I think the IMAX Digital might also be 185, which is the 70 millimeter format. I'm not entirely sure. I feel like it's 185. Um, so yes, the IMAX 70 is great. It looks beautiful. It has higher fidelity. It's sharper. It's closer to the VistaVision that it was shot in and projected in certain locations. Now let's get to the VistaVision. Now, VistaVision is a format that is not often used, and it has not been. I think an entire film hasn't been shot on it since One Eye Jacks, which was 1960 something, I believe. I can't remember the exact year, but I think that was the last film entirely shot on it. And then it's never really gone away. You've had a lot of visual effects shots over the years have been done with VistaVision. I think Star Wars brought it back in the 70s, and then a lot of things have been shot with VistaVision. Back plates and sequences have been shot. Most recently, uh, Poor Things shot some sequences in VistaVision, and The Brutalist last year shot a good amount of their film in VistaVision. I think they mixed a lot of VistaVision with regular 35 millimeter. But this was one of the this was almost entirely shot in VistaVision. They also mixed some 35 millimeter, regular 35 millimeter in with the regular with the larger VistaVision. But the thing about this one is it's the first film since the 1950s to be projected in VistaVision and shot in VistaVision. The Brutalist last year was shot a lot in VistaVision, but projected in 70 and on digital and everything like that. But this in 4 locations so far in New York, Boston, London, and LA are the film is being projected in VistaVision. And when I tell you the difference in quality is stark. IMAX 70 is probably the best display, the best viewing experience that you can get on a regular if you have a place around you. But this, so the thing that made this so good in VistaVision is it is a contact print. So the way that prints work is normally a print is made and then other prints are made from that print. And it's like if you screenshot something on your phone 1,000 times, by the time you get to the 1,000th time, it's going to degrade the image a little bit. You know, that's kind of what it's like with the print. The more generations away you get from the original negative, the less quality, the worse the quality is going to be. It's not going to be as sharp. It's not the contrast isn't going to be the same. The color isn't going to be the same. This VistaVision print that I saw in New York was a contact print, meaning it was directly printed off of the negative. And I tell you, the contrast is extremely different. The blacks are so inky and so rich, which then gives the colors more depth and more not saturation, but it's a richer color. It's more vibrant, more deeper colors. It's beautiful. It's really just it's if you can see it in this format, I highly recommend it. It is the best viewing format for this film, and it might honestly be the best viewing format that I've ever seen in a movie theater. It really is. Like the colors are just dense. That's what I wanted to say. They're super dense. Um, it's just different. It's completely different. And the reason why I love seeing it on film is because of the imperfections and the differences in the prints and all of that stuff excites me. Like you're getting a special experience every time you watch a movie projected on film. It's just different, and VistaVision is by far the best that I've seen thus far. Now I will say the IMAX, the digital IMAX was the best sound quality that I saw from the 4 times that I've seen this film so far. So take that as you will. Maybe the speaker that could be just the speakers in the theaters are different and presented differently. But I feel like there was a lot more warmth to the image. I mean, to the sound. in the digital IMAX than when I saw it on film 3 times. So, take that as you will. One of the things that I've heard people saying about this movie is it feels much faster than it actually is. It's a 2 hour and 49-minute movie, and it feels way shorter than that. And the reason that One Battle After Another feels way shorter than the 2 hour and 49-minute runtime is clever filmmaking. It's people are talking about the pacing and how well edited it is, and it is very well edited, and the pace does move very fast, but it's not really a 2 hour and 49-minute movie. It is a 30-minute movie followed by a 2 hour movie, and then end credits with that runtime. Let me explain. The first third of this film is all backstory. It's all exposition. It is its own short film that precedes the actual story that we're following. And it's information that we need in order to understand what's going on with the characters that we're following throughout the rest of the film. But it is not a part of the main story. And Paul has done this before. He did it briefly in Magnolia with the opening scene, which wasn't really backstory, but it was exposition and sort of explaining what his mindset was when he was making that film and the coincidences that were happening. But he also did it more famously, and I think more attuned with this, and There Will Be Blood, with the opening sequence with Daniel Day-Lewis in the mine shaft, and he's prospecting for silver, and then he gets it. He crawls all the way to the town to get the money and all of that, and finds HW, all of that. That entire silent film that happens before we get to the main story. This is similar to that. And what that does for us psychologically is it separates these two into their own film. Specifically with One Battle After Another, it is an entire story arc following a different main character. The main character of the opening short film, is what I'm going to call it, is Perfidia. It's Perfidia. It's Tiana Taylor's character. She is the main character, and she goes through a full arc. She goes from a revolutionary to a snitch to being on the run. She kind of has her own character development within that, and nobody else does. That's because it is not their film. We focus solely on her and her struggles as a revolutionary and becoming a mother, and this love triangle with her, Bob, and Sean Penn's character, and that is the entirety of that film. After that, we're watching a very fast-paced 2 hour movie that is just operating at a breakneck speed. It slows down a little bit at the beginning, but then from there, from the time that Regina Hall's character shows up at the dance, we're going super, super fast. And it feels so fast because our minds have separated those two sections as different films. We get all of Regina Hall's character showing up at the dance is the inciting incident of the film. That's what gets the real story started, and it's almost like how Pixar sets up. I mean, how it's almost like how Pixar gives you a short film before their actual feature film, right? You don't connect those two films. Mainly because they're different stories, different characters. But this one is similar to that in the sense that it's an entire story, but separate from our main story, which separates them as films. It's brilliant story construction. It's brilliant structure that allows for a longer film while still giving the exposition that we need. So then when we get into the main story, we don't need any of the exposition. So the pace can just flow. We don't slow anything down to explain anything because everything is already explained in the short film that happened before. It is literally tricking us into thinking these are two separate movies, which causes our brain to think that it's moving way faster than the runtime would suggest. What we subconsciously do as we're watching a movie, as we're listening to a story, as we're listening to music, even, is we're predicting what's going to happen next. I'm sure you've heard like a song and you were, for the first time, and you were able to predict the next note of the next line or something like that because whether you're a musician or not, whether you study musical theory or not, you know a lot about it. You've heard music your whole life. You're able to process these things and to the next logical space that it will happen. It's the same thing in a story. We process all of this into the next logical space, um the next logical move that would happen in a story. And Paul Thomas Anderson is setting up a lot of traditional action story tropes, traditional I'm gonna go save my kid tropes, and he's rejecting all of them. He's setting them up and not paying them off, which leaves us on our toes and makes us wonder what's going to happen next. That momentum continues to build and build and build until we get to the final scene with Willa when she kills the guy from the Christmas Adventurers Club. That is phenomenal storytelling. Like that to be able to take us from one place to another without having to follow the traditional tropes is what we all strive for as storytellers and filmmakers, right? And to do it so well and so many times, like I feel like everything was a twist from Bob falling off the roof to Sensei having this underground railroad in the first place. It all feels like twists, like the big twist that would happen in the second half of the second act of the film. Instead, it is happening constantly, these twists and turns, and we don't know which direction it's going. That is pulling us through this story and making the momentum flow much better. And I think that's appropriate because this movie is about people dealing with the past. It's about the actions that they've taken in the past manifesting in real life. And all of these actions that all of these other people have taken in the past are crashing down on someone who had nothing to do with it, which is Willa, who is really the main character of the film. I know we mostly follow Bob, Leonardo DiCaprio's Bob, but Willa is the person that goes through the transformation. She is different from when she started. The story, she's the emotional center of the story. But she's dealing with her mom shit and her dad shit. That we know. That those are the obvious things. But she's also dealing with Sean Penn's character's shit, and Sean Penn's character is dealing with the fact that he's a hypocrite and he loves black women and he really wanted to be with Perfidia, but what his current life goals are antithetical to what he did in the past, and now he has to deal with that, and he's trying to literally eliminate the remnants of those past actions that he's done, and those past actions just happen to be Willa because she is his actual biological daughter. Meanwhile, Willa was born and raised by a revolutionary. She was born to a revolutionary mom, and who she thought was her biological father was also a revolutionary. So she's dealing with the issues and the impact of what they were doing. And when you think about it, these characters were probably extremely young when they were doing all of this revolutionary stuff that they were doing. It's interesting in the sense that when we're young, we don't really fully think out our actions. And the older we get, the wiser we get. It's like the younger you are, the more energy that you have to go after some of these lofty ideals and want to change the world. You have the energy to do that. But as you age, you have the wisdom to do it and lack the energy to do it. And that's kind of where Bob is now. He's in a different space. He doesn't want to be bothered by any of this anymore, but he's older and wiser. And you can also see that in the head nun's character who's talking about how she gave up this shit a long time ago, got sick of this shit a long time ago. It's like once you get to a certain age, you lack the willpower to do these things, even though you have more experience and wisdom and can deal with these things in a much more mature way than domestic terrorism. Which brings me to one of the things that I'm sure people will criticize this movie about, and one of the things that I've heard people talk about, it being a political movie. And I don't see this as a political movie. I see the film as, so the main characters are political, and they have their very specific political ideologies, right? But this is a political movie in the sense that anything that is political or speaking about politics is a political movie. Just like anything that is violence promotes violence. Just like any war movie promotes war. It isn't necessarily the intention. It is not necessarily it's not necessarily what the filmmakers are trying to get from it, but it is a byproduct of making something about this subject matter. See, to me, I think this film is about characters who just happen to be super politically charged. I don't think the film itself is necessarily a political film because we're not really getting these strong, heavy-handed political statements. We're getting what I would consider realities of the political spectrum and how extremism on both ends kind of ruins it, and it kind of makes things chaotic. That's what we're getting. We're getting these extreme characters, these extreme political characters on either end of the spectrum. One being a white nationalist, the other being domestic terrorist, and we're getting them kind of clashing against each other. I don't think it has a political agenda. I think politics are the framework, but not the substance of the film. So I think a lot of people are having issues with separating the fact that there are politics in this film from the fact that it is not a political film. Like it's not meant to make this political statement. It is a family drama. It is a story of fathers and daughters and passing on generational trauma to your kids and everything like that. It's not trying to I don't think it's trying to say anything. I think what if it's trying to say anything, what it's trying to say is uh we the world is too extreme on both ends. I think it's poking fun at extremism and showing a lot of the dark sides of extremism on both ends of the political spectrum, whether you're alt right or a leftist. I think those are we see both extremes and the dark side of both extremes. So I don't think this is a political film. I really just think that the political framework sets up the actual substance of the film, which is this family drama. It also shows that, like I said before, the the when you're young, and I'm going to keep saying this throughout this entire thing. When you're young, you have the energy to do these things, but not the wisdom. But when you're old, you have the wisdom, but not the energy. I think that's one of the most underrated aspects of this film. It's brilliant in that way. It's not like a political film like how a Spike Lee movie would be a political film. You know what I mean? Like Do the Right Thing is a political movie. That is making a strong political statement. Whereas One Battle After Another is showing a reality and showing these characters living in this space and they just so happen to be very political people. I don't consider that being a political movie, but you might disagree with that. I never saw that. It's like I don't consider I don't consider a Tarantino film to promote violence, even though somebody could get violent thoughts from it or something like that. You know what I mean? It's not necessarily a promotion of violence, saying this is a good or bad thing. It's saying this is the reality of these people, and this is the story that is telling that this is the story that's being told about these people. That makes it less about politics. You're not making a statement in either direction. That makes it less political to me. I saw somebody I think it was a comment on either Instagram or on Rotten Tomatoes where somebody was talking about how the revolutionaries were immature in the beginning of the film, and that's kind of the point. That is the point. They are young and dumb. That is what is happening. That is literally what is happening. They are dumb revolutionaries that are again, they have the willpower to do things but not the wisdom to do things. All right, before we get into the cast and all of that, I want to talk about the marketing of the film because this has been a kind of a topic of debate, whether or not it's been marketed well, and mainly because it's Paul Thomas Anderson's most expensive film to date, and he's not known for being a filmmaker that makes money at the box office. I think only one or two of his films have been profitable at the box office. So let me say this: I will. I think when you have a film like this where you don't want to give away anything really in the trailer because everything would be a spoiler and ruin surprises, you have to find the niche market that you want to market to, right? I think where this film fails the most, or where the marketing team failed the most, is not marketing to black women enough. And the reason why I think that is because the real stars of this film are the black women. It's Chase Infinity, it's Tiana Taylor, it's Regina Hall. Those are the real heart and soul of the film, as opposed to Leonardo DiCaprio's character, who's kind of, bumbling and not really able to do. He doesn't do anything. He doesn't do anything. Willow said, you say Willow saves herself. She does. She does. That's the way it is. And I think one thing that we've seen recently, especially with films like Sinners and films like the first Black Panther movie, is activating Black people and making them feel like they're a part of something is a great way to make money. If you market a film and make Black people feel like they're special, like this film is for them, they will go out and see it. I think that's the biggest miss with this marketing campaign. I don't think I see a lot of people talking about the trailers. I don't think you could have done the trailers any better, just simply because you don't want to give away anything in this film. Everything is so important to not be given away in this film. And if you added any more plot details, I think it would have just fucked the whole thing up. But that's I feel like even with the marketing not necessarily hitting where the way it should have, I think word of mouth might push this film to make even more money than it would have before. Now, let's get into the film. I mean, to the cast. Chase Infinity, my God, she is, and I know everybody's saying this, but wow, she's good. She's really, really good. Like I said, she's the heart and soul of this film, and without her working, the film doesn't work. And I heard Paul Thomas Anderson say that what took him so long to make the film um, was not being able to find this person that needed to play this role. I don't remember if it was before or right after, but I remember reading the trades and seeing that Paul Thomas Anderson was looking for a mixed race girl to play a role in his film, his upcoming film, and she had to be martial arts trained. That was a long time ago. That was definitely before Licorice Pizza. So he had been thinking about this for a while. I think 20 years is what they're saying, but he had been looking for this character and unable to find his Willa for a very long time. And I think Chase Infinity came at the right time because she was phenomenal. One of the things that I really, really love about the ending is that Willa is the hero of the story. She's her own hero. She's not. She don't wait for her dad to come and save her, or somebody else to come along and save her. She takes agency over her own situation. She's setting herself free. It's not a damsel in distress type of situation. And the reason why I love it is not because of any like women empowerment shit or nothing like that. I really, really love it because she is taking on the mantle of these issues that were delegated to her, that she inherited from her parents. And it's a coming of age story where she has to really grasp these things and take control over them, or her life is going to be in ruins. You know what I mean? So I like the fact that she's the one that figures it out. She really is the hero of her own story. If it weren't that way, then she would still be beholden to the things of the past that she had nothing to do with. Now she's made her own decisions to take control over these things and really be the next generation up to take the wheel on a lot of these issues. That's really, really why I love it. What I also love about the ending is when Bob is coming up and she has the gun out and he has his gun out, and neither one of them can see each other, and the audience doesn't know if either one of them are going to accidentally shoot each other before they see each other when they're coming around that sign. Um, that's really powerful. First off, that's super powerful filmmaking, very suspenseful. But when she asked the question, "Who are you?" after he already gives the answer to the Beverly Hillbillies, Hooterville Junction, the Gil Scott Heron song. I can't think of the lyrics right now, but when she gives the when Bob gives the answer, when Bob gives the answer to that, excuse me, and she shouts out, "Who are you?" It's not just a "Who are you?" in this moment. It's a "Who are you? What the fuck did you just put me through?" She's seeing her father as a human being, as a three-dimensional human being with a past for the first time. And that "Who are you?" is, what the fuck is all of this shit? I don't understand. and it's a realization that she has to come to grips with, because this is not something that she really anticipated ever happening in her life. Sure, he told her about certain things and trained her in a certain way, but she didn't believe it. At the beginning of the film, she says, "Nobody's coming after you, Bob," right? So she didn't really believe that any of this stuff could actually happen. So now that it has, it's like, who the fuck are my parents? What is going on right now? I think that is a brilliant line and a brilliant moment between the two of them. I think Chase Infinity is going to be the next Hollywood it girl. I feel like this movie might catapult her into the stratosphere, depending, of course, one, if she wants to be that, and two, what she does to capitalize on these things. She has everything to be the next Hollywood it girl. Hollywood loves a light skinned black girl. That's just a fact. You know, Zendaya, Beyonce, people like that. The ones that they really gravitate to, Halle Berry, are lighter skinned than, and she fits in that mold. She's a mixed race young woman. Um, so she has that going for her. But beyond that, she has the talent. Beyond, I think she's a better actress in the two, things, the TV show and this movie that I've seen her in. She seems like a better actress than, current it girls like Zendaya or Sydney Sweeney. She has like serious acting chops to back it up. But she also just she's pretty. She seems fun. She seems internet savvy. She seems to not shy away from at least on this press tour, to not shy away from the attention that comes with all of this. And I could see her. I could see her being the next it girl for this generation. You know what I mean? After, because both Sydney Sweeney and Zendaya are kind of aging out of that. Sydney Sweeney is in the middle of it. Zendaya is kind of aging out of that and just becoming this megastar in her own right. And I feel like megastar is a graduation from it girl. You know what I mean? Because it girls are recyclable. They come in and out of style. You know what I mean? They happen all the time, and some go on to be megastars, and some fade out into the background and are replaced. It's an unfortunate truth of how the Hollywood machine works as far as stardom goes. But Chase Infinity, she has the talent, she has the looks, she has the charm, she's internet savvy. I think she might be the next it girl, and this performance will, if she wants it and capitalizes on it, will catapult her into the stratosphere. Because it's that damn good. Sean Penn is phenomenal as Lockjaw. He you know there are very few people that can transform themselves so thoroughly. And I remember seeing the film Milk back in, I want to say that was 2008, and thinking Sean Penn was amazing. And then watching after that the Fast Times at Ridgemont High, and confused how this could be the same actor. Some actors are able to just transform themselves physically and emotionally to the point where they're unrecognizable. Sean Penn in this movie does that, and I would be surprised if he does not win the Academy Award for Best Supporting Actor. His way of walking completely changed, and one of the things that really transformed, and he does it a few times, but he doesn't overdo it, is the thing that he does with his lip and his teeth. He's like, that he does that thing, and it's such a specific thing that he added to the character that makes him feel more realistic and more three-dimensional. And it's phenomenal acting. But then again, everybody, I think all of the principal characters could be reasonable nominees, if not winners, for the Academy Awards. And I've seen a good amount of the films that are being talked about as the Oscar films for the year. I think Tiana Taylor, man, she is a lightning bolt that just rocks this whole thing. And she's only in the first part of the film, but her presence looms so heavily over this. If it didn't work in the first part of the film, I don't think it would have worked at all. I've seen a lot of discourse about the relationship between Perfidia and Colonel Lockjaw, and what I will say is, I kind of understand what they're saying, but I feel like I've seen a lot of people talking about how Perfidia is like sex crazed, and she's obsessed. I feel like Perfidia's character might have you know how in the movie she asks, "Do you like white girls?" I think she likes, "Do you like black girls?" Excuse me. I think she likes white guys. I think that is a thing for her. But the difference between how she feels about Leonardo DiCaprio's character and Sean Penn's character is pretty stark to me. For Sean Penn's character, she's to me, it's clear that she's using her sexuality as a weapon in order to get what she wants and continue her mission. And I think I honestly think she's in this revolution for the thrill of it rather than the actual revolution itself. It doesn't seem like she comes from a long line of revolutionaries, so she was born into this lifestyle, but it feels like the thrill of the revolution drives her more than the cause itself, which causes her to do a lot of dumb shit. She's like I said, she's the immaturity when you're this film does a really great job at showing the transition between a young radical and somebody that's old and progressive. When you're young and radical, you don't have, and I've said this, you don't have the wisdom to execute these things properly. But when you're older, you don't have the energy, and I feel like Perfidia is the embodiment of that. Um, but yeah, I got off topic. Her weaponizing her sexuality with Sean Penn gets her what she wants and lets her continue without having to deal with the law for a little bit. Her sexuality with Leonardo DiCaprio comes off more like a young puppy love, like when you first meet somebody that you're really really into and you don't want to be away from them and they're like everything they do turns you on, but like at the beginning of falling in love, when you really are just like, I want to be with you. I want to, no matter what, let's have sex and while the bomb goes off. That type of love when it's just fresh and new and it feels exciting. That's kind of what their relationship is. And I think Perfidia is a thrill seeker, and it's thrilling for her to be in love with Bob, with Ghetto Pat. It's different. It's something new for her, and it's thrilling. And I think she is one of the more. I think she's one of the deeper characters. She's so complex, and she's not doing things right, and she's not this brilliant revolutionary, and her motives aren't always for the betterment of other people, but often just for selfish reasons. And she's fighting with this postpartum depression and everything like that. I think it's really a great uh, portrayal of a complex and layered individual that may or may not do the things that she should do the correct way or the way that would benefit other people. She's more complicated than that. She's not black and white. It's really a complicated character, I think. And Tiana Taylor just does a fantastic job at making this character feel real. Um, Regina Hall doesn't have much to do, but every time she's on screen, it feels like she is just, without chewing scenery, she's stealing the scenes. She's emotionally raw. She feels like a protector. She does so much with just her facial expressions and it's just little tiny micro movements. Like she's not making these big gestures, but she's stealing the scene with literally the smallest look in the look off camera. It's phenomenal. I think Leo found this really great spot uh, that is somewhere between the dude and his character in Killers of the Flower Moon, who I can't remember the name right now, and maybe even a little Rick Dalton in there. And I don't think this character is like any of those characters, but I feel like the DNA is the same, and he takes it and he makes this father figure, this father, so relatable and just trying to find his daughter and wanting to make sure she's safe and bring her back home. It's so good and so real and so raw and so honest. I think uh Benicio del Toro was phenomenal in this. I watched the interview, which but with Benicio del Toro and no, not Benicio del Toro, with Paul Thomas Anderson and Leonardo DiCaprio, and they were talking about how the entire Harriet Tubman, Latino Harriet Tubman storyline with the underground railroad with the refugees and everything that were living in this apartment building. That was all Benicio del Toro's idea. Apparently, that wasn't in the script at all, and he just brought this stoicism and this calm, but still comedic, and still felt like he was in control and felt like he was 10 steps ahead almost every single time. He brought this quality to the role, and it's one of the best roles that I've seen Benicio del Toro in. I could argue that everybody involved in this film, it was one of their best roles, if not their best role. So with Benicio del Toro changing adding that those elements into it, but Paul Thomas Anderson is known to be a lot looser with his scripts, which is not common with writer directors. A lot of writer directors are really precious about their scripts and their stories and their dialogue. And Paul Thomas Anderson wants to collaborate with the actors. He said that it's one of his favorite things to do in terms of filmmaking. And he allows his actors to give ideas, and if he likes them, he'll use them. And but the reason why he's able to do this is because those things do not change the story, they change the plot. The story that he's telling is still the same. The family drama that he's telling is still the same no matter what, but the plot elements can change the way that things unfold in front of us. We're still going to get to the end from the beginning that was in mind, even though that apparently changed a bit too. And those are plot points. But the story between this father and daughter is still there. The heart of it is still there, no matter how often the plot is changed, which is great collaborative filmmaking because it allows for new ideas to improve on the story with different plot points. Like I said earlier, this film is all forward momentum, right? It is after the short film about Perfidia, we get literally one thing after another. And this film could have been called One Thing After Another. And I think Sean Penn's character says if it's not one thing, it's another, or it's one thing after another uh, later on in the film. But it is literally something happens that sets up the next conflict, which is incredible pacing as far as the screenplay goes. It is forward momentum that is constantly pulling us through this narrative and making us want to know what's happening next and frightened because we can't predict what's happening next. It's the casting. I think this and Sinners are probably. I'm trying to think if there's another one. But the new, if you guys don't know, the Academy Awards just added a category for this year, and it's going to be casting director. And I think this is got to be one of the top one or two front runners for casting director for the inaugural Casting Director Academy Award. This film is casted to perfection. One character I want to talk about is, and I don't know his name. I don't know his name on screen or off screen, but the guy that is interrogating everybody. He interrogates the kids at the high school. He interrogates Regina Hall. He interrogates the character, the one who gives the transmitters, and who's doing the radio show. He is the most frightening character in this film. I don't know what it is about him, but he scares the shit out of me. What he's doing. He has. I looked him up beforehand and I can't remember his name, and I'm sorry for not remembering your name. But he only has one IMDb credit, and it's this film. And this is his. So I'm assuming this is his first film, and he's just so real and so like this is what I imagine a military interrogator is like, and it's frightening as hell. He every scene he's in, he steals to me. It's really just mind blowing how good this cast is. But Paul Thomas Anderson films always have good casts. It's he has a knack for finding the right actor to play the characters in these films, and it's actors that you wouldn't even think about. For instance, the head nun is the interviewer from Magnolia, which is incredible because I don't like to be able to have a role for her, 25 years after that, and have her be so perfect for it, and it's like all of these unknown actors and non actors and forgotten actors come together to make one of the best acted films of the year, I think. And that there's just something about the way that Paul works that just this synergy that all of the creative collaborators are clicking. And I think from what I hear, it's just a very and open and creative space where everybody's ideas can be heard. And that translates to the visuals as well. Um, Mike Bauman, who is a gaffer, a phenomenal gaffer who's worked on so many films that you know and love. Um, and yeah, I think I don't know if he's the owner or just a part of the company, but the company Lux Lighting, he is heavily involved with that. But he is listed as the cinematographer for this film, and um, I'm curious what his actual role was, because ever since Phantom Thread, Paul Thomas Anderson has kind of been serving as his own DP, but it seemed like he was reluctant to take the title of cinematographer. Um, in Phantom Thread, there was no cinematographer, and in Licorice Pizza, it was both Paul and Mike Bauman listed as a cinematographer, and in One Battle After Another, Mike Bauman is listed as the sole cinematographer. Um, what I am assuming, and I have no knowledge of this at all, is Mike Bauman is now taking the lead on the lighting while Paul is taking the lead on the camera work. Which, from what I understand, Paul had always been a pretty visually dominant director, even when he was working with Robert Elswit on some of the earlier films. Paul. It's been said several times that Paul knows lenses better than most cinematographers out there. So I think it's an interesting collaboration between the two of them, and I would love to hear more on how it works. If Mike Bauman has now um, stepped across the line and done more camera work and become more on the visual side of that, on the become more involved with the visuals in that aspect, or if he is just focusing on the lighting, and now he's instead of reporting to Paul or reporting to a cinematographer, he's taking the lead on some of the lighting and how some of these scenes are going to be lit. I'm very curious, but the visuals of this film are gorgeous. They are, what I'll say about the lighting is it's so naturalistic. There were times where, and I'm sure there were actually times where they were just using the natural light that was in, because I know in the supermarket scene, they kind of just went in there with the permission of the supermarket, of course, but they went in there and just shot without setting up any lights or anything like that. So there's so many times where the lighting just, it feels so naturalistic, and I know that it's lit, and that is one of the most difficult things to do. The more natural it looks, the harder it was to light, and they're shooting on film. So especially for some of these car scenes and these night scenes, you need light. Um, I know I was thinking with some of the car scenes, I couldn't tell if they were on a process trailer and they had lights on it, or if they were driving. Because when you wanna see where a light source is coming from, often you look at the eyes of the characters, and you could see where the light source is in the reflection in their eyes. And it seemed like they were naturally lit in the car scenes, which is great and amazing and bold, and such a, like, they as they drove through, I could see the light from, outside as they passed the trees and everything like that. And you can fake a lot of that, but when you can actually see the tree that they're passing and the light kind of coming through the branches of the trees and flickering on the characters' faces, that's amazing. I know they had to have pushed a couple of stops, maybe a stop or two, for some of these night scenes. There's one in particular that I'm thinking about with Regina Hall, when she throws the cell phone out of the van. Um, like, that had to be pushed at least a stop to. I would assume they shot on a tungsten film, which would probably be 500T, and pushed to 1,000, and probably shot at a third of a stop, overexposed maybe, so it probably somewhere around 800 ISO. But you can tell when they push the film, because of the grain gets a little bit more heavy in those areas, and the contrast becomes a little bit more heavy, which also can give a little bit more saturation and everything too. But the visuals really, especially in the, I think both car chase scenes, in the Perfidious short film, which is still what I'm calling it, and at the end, I think both car chase scenes, those are some of the best car chases I've ever seen. In the last one, the roller coaster of those hills is just like seeing it on IMAX and VistaVision, you kind of your stomach starts to drop a little bit as if you were on a roller coaster riding up and down, and they're shooting it at golden hour. You see the long shadows and the warm lighting, and these landscapes in Southern California, which are just gorgeous. And it's man, Paul has such a command over visual language, and it's not like these shots aren't necessarily all just like showy, like look at me, I'm composing this amazing image, or I'm or you know this phenomenal lighting. It's a lot of it is just like this is the story that we're telling. This is the rough and dirty visuals, and it somehow still works and is beautiful, you know. But not to say that there aren't times where Paul isn't flexing his compositional muscles, you know, like the obvious one is the one where Lockjaw is meeting the bounty hunter to hand Willow over to him, and they have that really wide shot with the two of them small in the frame, in the center of the frame, with the two cars on the outside. That's a gorgeous shot. Another one is a lot of the stuff, almost all of the stuff in the convent uh, with Lockjaw and Willow, that those shots are gorgeous when it's just the two of them in that large, I think it's a sanctuary. Um, those are some beautifully composed shots, and the lighting is soft and very very unassuming, but it's so well composed that it draws you in. Even some of the close-ups are just gorgeous, you know. And you know, one of the things I noticed in this is, and you can see this with a lot of the close-ups and a lot of the moving shots. They're not afraid to go out of focus, which is, you know, something to be said for a 150 plus $1 million film. They're not afraid to go out of focus. They're not afraid to wander around and hunt for the actual focus. You know, I one thing I've heard about Paul is that he gives his actors free reign to move around the set, um, and he often will block based on what they feel their character, how they feel their character will move around the set. You know, which is a great thing, and a lot of the camera work in this is handheld, and you know that adds to the momentum visually that we're feeling in the story, and it's pulling us all along and making it making it very kinetic and very energetic with all of the camera movement. You know, like I said, the visuals, if you're watching a Paul Thomas Anderson film, you can expect the visuals to be beautiful. It's some of the most, he has some of the most visually striking films of the last, you know, 25 years. Let's talk about the music, because Johnny Greenwood is yet again the unsung hero of a Paul Thomas Anderson film. I honestly, I would say the music in since There Will Be Blood, the music in Paul Thomas Anderson's films kind of have become a character in themselves, and that's all Johnny Greenwood. This musical the score, excuse me, is this rhythmic and staccato, really heart pounding thing at times, and it kind of matches the momentum of the film, and it pulls you forward, and it makes your pulse go up, your heart race a little bit. But then sometimes it's beautiful and intimate and really just different. And I feel like Johnny Greenwood just needs all of the credit in the world, because he is a brilliant film composer, also obviously a brilliant musician. He's in Radiohead, all of that. And you know, he's really I think one of the best, if not the best, collaboration that Paul Thomas Anderson has is with Johnny Greenwood. It is his music really makes a lot of these films just great. It just improves everything. I still often have the Phantom Thread music stuck in my head. You know, I don't know why, but it pops in my head regularly, at least 2 or 3 times a week. The Phantom Thread music pops in my head. Um, the Licorice Pizza music is great. The this music is great. It's Johnny Greenwood. Salute to you. You are a brilliant film composer, and that's great that you managed to transform from a rock star to a movie composer and going back and forth. It's really just amazing to me. So I want to talk about how this fits in the three waves of Paul Thomas Anderson, right? One Battle After Another comes after Licorice Pizza and Phantom Thread. And what I would say the three waves of PTA are is his young man phase, and this is when he's full of energy, full of gusto, full of he's proving himself. He has all of the all of the characteristics of a young man with all the confidence in the world who there's something to be said there's something to be said about a confident young man that annoys the entire world, right? And he made great art out of that energy with Heart Aid or Sydney, um, with Boogie Nights, and then with Magnolia. You feel the energy, the camera movement, the flashiness, the showing off of his abilities and his both technically and storytelling wise, and that dynamic kind of created almost like Tarantino's the first two films are a lot more boisterous than I think some of his other films. Um, I think it's the same way with Paul. Like his first three films are a lot more boisterous, a lot more like, look at me, I'm a technical wizard. I can write the hell out of this dialogue. I'm like, look at this, look flashy, and then you get to what I would call his adult male phase, and that comes with There Will Be Blood, where he's more introspective. He's more trying to express an idea, a lofty idea, a lofty feeling. And you can see that reflected in his filmmaking. Things slow down. The characters have become more dense, more in depth. The storytelling is more in depth and more challenging, almost as if he uh, wants to make um, not prophetic. Prophetic isn't the right word, but make big statements on the world. Like this is what I'm saying about the human condition. That's that phase with There Will Be Blood and The Master and Inherent Vice to an extent, and then the darndest thing, excuse me, the darndest thing happens with his last three films. They are mainly focused on young women with Phantom Thread, Licorice Pizza, and now One Battle After Another. And I wonder if that's because I believe Paul has three daughters or four daughters or something like that, or maybe it's daughters and a son. I wonder if it's his relationship with his daughters that is making him focus more on young women and their struggles, because one of the criticisms that Paul had in his films is that he didn't have very many female characters or strong female characters, uh, which I disagree with, and I don't think every story needs to have every type of character. Um, but that is a criticism that people had been handing out to him. But Phantom Thread is about Vicky Creeps' Alma, who is this. She's this woman that's trying to take control over this egotistical, self-centered man, and she does in her own way, and it kind of it follows her in her emotional journey, not his emotional journey, um, throughout that entire film. Um, Licorice Pizza seems like it's going to be a story about Gary, and it ends up being a story about Alana and how she's dealing with coming of age, and how she's dealing with being older and not accomplishing all of the things that she wanted to in life, and how that is kind of, people talk about the age difference, and I think that the statement that's being made, whether intentionally or unintentionally, is she is not mature and she has not matured, which is why she's attaching herself to this younger person. And it's presented as this happy love story. Obviously that relationship just can't work in real life, even in the confines of the story that was set up. But she's searching for herself within that entire film. You have her searching for herself, which is how she get attached to Gary, and then with the political stuff, and then she finds out that everything sucks, and then goes back to Gary because that feels safe and at home and everything like that. It is it's he's transformed himself into this storyteller of this really empathetic storyteller for women and young women and how they're falling in love and aging and all of those things. I think in one battle after another, one of the most powerful scenes is when Perfidia is talking about how she's jealous of her baby and how she wants attention. And I've heard pregnant women having these issues and having postpartum depression and all of these things like that, and wanting to again take control over their lives, which is what gets Perfidia into the trouble that she gets into in the beginning of the film. And then you have again the coming of age of Chase Infinity's character, that is Willow, that is she's born into this life that she doesn't understand, that was probably realistically an ideal and perfect life before she started to grow up and realize like this isn't normal. Why am I living like this? Why can't I have a phone? Why do I have to learn all of this revolutionary stuff and have all of these passwords and all of these things? And those three films really shows that this is a new era for Paul Thomas Anderson, which just so happens to be a female-centric era. Even though you still have Leonardo DiCaprio's character, which is technically the main character of the film. But again, I would argue that Chase Infinity's character is the main character of the film. It is it's interesting to watch someone grow throughout their body of work, throughout their art, throughout their whatever they're doing, their self-expression. And you can kind of see what I would perceive as Paul Thomas Anderson's personal transformation from young man to adult male to father throughout his work. It's fascinating, and really one of the best parts of watching his filmography is seeing that transformation.
It's not cards. You don't roll cards. It's dice.
Well, I think that is all I got for this episode, this first episode of What's on My Mind with Deontay Jenkins. I am Deontay Jenkins, and that is what was on my mind. I will see you next time. Peace.